so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about a few sponsors that not only help to make it possible to produce this show 5 days a week, but that I'm also genuinely passionate about promoting, especially since they're helping to fund all the cool projects we have in the works, such as the Positive Head app, the docuseries that I'm intending to begin shooting within the next year, and whatever else we dream up over here at Positive Headquarters to help spread consciousness across the planet. Now, if you're short on time or just super excited for today's topic and want to dive right in and skip these ads, feel free to fast forward about
4 minutes
to get right into today's show. That being said, I strongly encourage you to listen because the reason I'm passionate about my sponsors is because they've made a huge impact in my own life, which is why I've aligned with these organizations. And I firmly believe they can do the same for you too. The first longtime stellar supporter of the show that I want to mention is Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online with over 8,000 video titles. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. The second sponsor I'm extremely passionate about promoting is Purium. It's no mystery that bringing your mind, body, and spirit into balance is necessary if a person truly intends to manifest the greatest and grandest version of themselves. And as of recording this, it's been about 4 months since I started taking the Purium Core 4 superfood products every day. And I can honestly and sincerely say my mind, body, and spirit have never felt more in alignment. If you've been looking for a way to easily get superfoods into your system every day with a simple plan that can help you reestablish a healthier foundation and relationship with food, I cannot recommend for you to start with the Purium 40-Day Ultimate Nutrition Plan, which includes a 10-day metabolic reset and cleanse enough. I spent personally months researching Purium before I jumped in, and now myself and over 150 other positive heads have started with the 40-Day Ultimate Nutrition Plan, and many of us have continued taking the Core 4 products on an ongoing basis daily ever since. I personally intend to take them for the rest of my life because they played a huge role transforming my vibrational state. If you decide to do it, it'll cost you just over $7 a day for the first 40 days and only about $5 a day after. But if you do it the way that I recommend you to do it, the smartest and most beneficial way, it won't cost you anything. I recommend you to just look at where you can reallocate money you are already spending on food each day. Essentially, you're just going to swap out the unhealthiest stuff you're in the habit of purchasing in exchange for Purium superfoods. And this way, it costs you nothing to participate in the transformation and cleanse. And it creates exponential benefit because now you've replaced something that lowers your vibration with something that is going to make you feel super high in the healthiest kind of way. Just take a few minutes, see where you can cut out $5 to $7 a day and commit to doing it. It's that simple. Also, for support, we'll be doing a big group transformation with other positive heads and soul family once each month for support. So I recommend, going right now, ordering your 40-day Ultimate Nutrition Plan bundle so that you have it when the next group transformation starts. Procrastination is not your friend. Order it now. You can thank me later, because I can assure you, you will not be sorry you've decided to send a message to the universe that you're ready to step up your vibrational game and reclaim your health sovereignty. Just head over to ishoppurium.com. That's spelled ISHOPPURIUM.com. Be sure to use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for either $50 off or a 25% discount, whichever is greater. And also, if you want to learn more details about the Purium products, why I'm so passionate about promoting them beforehand, you can go check out several videos I shot discussing these things in greater detail. You can also hear my interview with the very inspiring founder, David Sandoval. Much, much more over at positivehead.com/transformation. All right, all you positive heads, on this week's Powwow episode, I'm very excited to have a fellow Re-Dash member and reminder, Brian Ridgway, here with me on the show. And Brian is also a fellow Purium advocate, supporter, user of those amazing products, how we originally met. And Brian, so grateful to finally connect with you here on the show, my friend.
I'm excited to be on with you. I expect amazing things to flow from this conversation.
Yes, indeed. I've definitely been looking forward to it. And I'm going to start you off very typically the way I start with everybody that I have on the show for these powwows. Opening question is this. You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You have 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
Well, I help people. And my passion is actually very selfishly creating the world that I want to live in, which is a world of a lot more love, joy, peace, and actual genuine abundance. So my passion towards that is helping the person in front of me, as much as they want, as much as they're willing, to actually wake up to their infinite, unlimited being, to help them to become it as much as they're ready and willing. And knowing that every time I do that, I'm helping myself, because we are literally one, and helping the person in front of me to experience their oneness, to go from the idea of infinite possibilities into the actual experience of it, to go from the idea that we're all one into the experience of it, and to go from the idea that we're all energy in a state of infinite possibilities into the full experience of it, and to just watch the amazement as it unfolds for them as we take those steps together. I think I did it in 4 floors, maybe. No.
You actually took us on the Willy Wonka elevator straight out into the cosmos, and I'm glad you did. You're definitely a man after my own heart. It's like I say at the top of the show, it's like one thing to understand this idea of oneness theoretically, and it's another to really ground it in experientially. And that is really the work that I think all of us are here to do at this juncture in our collective and individual evolution, is really grounding that in. So I applaud you and the work that you're doing. And I'd love to hear a little bit of how you got on this path, how what's your background, your story? How'd you end up doing what it is you do?
Yeah, well, we all have everybody has an amazing story. And I find that mind is even mind melting to those with mind melting stories. So here's the essence of it. I was born into a family of extreme unhappiness and anger and misery. My dad was a 6'4" furious Irishman, 6'4" redheaded guy that had just gotten out of the army, and he sounds like
my family. I have a lot of redheads, my brother, sister. So I know the tempers of the redheads.
Yeah. This guy, and if you look at Ayurveda, if you look at Pitta, he's the embodiment of Pitta. And he was angry, and he married a woman with very low self-esteem. Imagine that, who was inviting, that kind of fury into her life. And so my mom had a boy and a girl from previous marriage. So they were unhappy, and I got born into this situation, and there was no religion, there was no spirituality, there was no love, there was no warmth, and just a lot of misery. And so I was super, super sensitive. And around 3, I started to notice, and I had no words for it. I had no vocabulary. There was no one around me to help me understand it. But I noticed that I could look at a person and listen to them. And within 3 or 4 seconds, I literally knew how they were. Well, first of all, I knew that they were holding themselves back. I knew how they were holding themselves back, and I could actually help them. And it freaked everybody around me out. And so
Wow.
from 3 until age 46, which is quite a stretch, it was a curse. This ability that I had unconditional love for everybody that came into my presence. And I immediately launched into how they were holding themselves back and how to solve it. And I personally took 46 years to learn, don't help anyone until they ask for it. And the pain that I went through on that 43-year learning curve, man, was pretty intense. Well, along the way, a couple of threads here. One thread is that my dad just beat the crap out of me pretty much every day. It was a guarantee that I was going to get mentally, emotionally, and physically the shit beat out of me every day.
Wow.
And that happened for the first 17 years of my life. And he emphatically wanted me to know that I was a stupid, ugly, worthless piece of crap. And so
Wow.
I had this emotional, mental image beaten into me for roughly 17 years. And I'm so grateful for it. I am so grateful. It absolutely set me up for the life that I have. Well, I went from that into self-help at a very, very early age. And I spent roughly $300,000 over the course of 30-something years. I spent tens of thousands of hours and decades and big money chasing every type of self-help, personal development, getting into later spirituality, law of attraction. I tried multiple religions. And when I say I tried, I mean I dove in and spent years as fanatical adherent because it said it was going to change my life, it was going to make my life work. So if something came down the pike that claimed it was going to set me free or make my life work, I devoted myself fanatically to it. And at 46, now here's where all these threads come together. By age 46, I had generated in business over $161 million in a bunch of different industries. My ability to make money was unlimited. However, my ability to lose money was also unlimited. And I
just as good at spending it and losing it, huh?
Oh man, I could create people who would just show up and quote take advantage of me as I saw it back then, that people took advantage of me, ripped me off. I know that none of that happened now. And so I had generated well over $160 million. I had made and lost a fortune 7 times. I had spent a fortune on self-help and personal development. And at 46, I ended up homeless, hopeless, every bridge burnt, and totally suicidal. And if I didn't have kids, I would have joyfully put a gun in my mouth. Of course, I couldn't afford a gun. So I probably would have jumped off a bridge or jumped in front of a train or something. But, you know, blessing to me, I did have kids that I love as much as I love air, which is a lot. And I couldn't quite bear the idea of leaving them. And so I didn't end my life. And at 46, I had this awakening experience, and we may talk more about it, but you know, you asked what got me on this path, what got me into this place, that story, and what ended up as homeless, suicidal, hopeless, with all my bridges burned and absolutely no way out at 46. That's the story that led to where I'm at now.
Wow, that's quite the story, Brian. And you know, I can't imagine. You know, my dad sort of had a similar experience to what you just described, where his father was very physically abusive. And, you know, I definitely saw the wrong end of a belt a few times, but certainly I can't imagine what it must be like to, you know, go through physical, mental abuse every day like that. And, of course, with me, that chain was completely broken. I think I shook my son one time and then felt so guilty I couldn't bear it, and he was like 3, just like shaking him because I was agitated with him. So it's just wild that was such a big part of, previous generations. And just hearing you explain that is like, wow, that's been such a thing in so many people's lives. It's incredible that you have ended up where you have. Honestly, dealing with something like that really does break a lot of people, right?
Yeah, it does. And truthfully, I am so immensely grateful for that experience. I would, we're going to go into what I do and what kind of things I help people to experience. And I would never have been able to do what I do and understand what I understand had I not gone through that. So I'm hugely grateful. Yeah, it was rough. I mean, I had PTSD on every level for decades following that experience. And I discovered some things as a result of it that have been so profound and miraculous in my life.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that is everything. What you're saying there is like how grateful you are for it. Now, at the time, I'm sure you weren't loving it, but the fact that you can have expanded your perspective to see, that those giant lumps of coal, how there were diamonds inside, right? And you've cracked those open. You found those diamonds. So maybe that'd be a good place to start, is just explaining, well, okay, when you say you're grateful, why? What did you gain? And, what came out of that? That was
okay. Well,
positive.
just let's put a bookmark so that we know. It might be worth coming back to what happened, when I was at that lowest point, how that fed in, and still I can jump ahead to that answer. We can work our way back around.
Whatever you feel's best, as long as you can get to it later. We can start wherever you feel like is best to go next.
Okay, but, fair enough. I tell you what I'll do, Brandon. I will say what happened in that lowest moment, and then that leads to what happened anyway. So yeah, that might work a little better for the listener.
Okay, great.
To tie pieces together. So in that moment, at the end of my rope, as hopeless as a human being can be, and with no way out. I was married at the time. My wife was pregnant. We had 2 little ones, and we had gone home. We'd been homeless for quite a while, and we ended up, I was in a 1-room dumpy hotel in Van Nuys, California, and I was down to 1 night of money left. We had $45, $46, enough to do 1 night when you talk about Van Nuys, near LA, a hotel that you can do for $45 a night. We were not at the Ritz.
Yeah, right.
And after that night, we were going to be on the street. That's where we were. And I had a little tiny, pathetic little money-making thing that I was doing that I was grateful for. And my intuition told me that morning, you know what? It's time to quit. And if there was one thing I had learned during all the inner work that I had done, it was trust my intuition no matter what. So I said, well, okay, I guess that's it. Like after I'll quit. And after today, we have no money for another night. We're back on the street and I have no way out. So, okay, I surrender. And I went back to my hotel and I went down, I sat by the pool. And this is really the catalyst that opened everything else for me. Something just said, go sit by the pool. And I thought, well, I have no way, nothing else to do, nothing better to do. I'm going to go sit by the pool. So I went down, I put my feet in the water, and I don't always tell these details. And something just tells me to open this up, Brandon. So you invited, I'm going to rant on this. So
yeah, please.
Put my feet in this little tiny pool that was a little bit more than a hot tub. And I just breathed. And the universe might as well have audibly said to me, it was visceral. It was the deepest, most direct communication with the universe, which I now have come to recognize is myself. And it said, look at your feet in this turquoise water. And I did. And I had this, wait a minute, man, there's turquoise water in the Bahamas and in Cancun and Hawaii and all the places I would infinitely rather be than at the end of my rope, hopeless, homeless, suicidal, sitting here. But my feet are in turquoise water. How cool is that? And then the universe said, okay, and now look up. And I looked up and the sky was blue. Now, if you've ever been in Van Nuys, California, blue skies happen once or twice a year for a few minutes. It had rained for 3 solid days. And this was in 4.5 months in Van Nuys, this was the first time there had been a blue sky. And I looked up, I was just dumbfounded. Oh my God, this beautiful blue sky wraps around, and it's beautiful blue sky over Hawaii and Cancun and the Bahamas and all the places I'd rather be. And then I felt the warm sun on my skin. And I started to cry, and I had this quantum physics, all the quantum physics and all the spiritual stuff I had ever learned kind of landed in one moment. I'm not really in this body, and I am not separate, and I am not in Van Nuys, and I'm not at a dumpy hotel at the end of my rope. I am infinite, unlimited energy in a state of infinite possibilities. That sun that's shining on my skin is right now at a slightly different angle, shining over Hawaii and the Bahamas and Cancun and all the places that I would so much rather be. And that blue sky is over all of it. And turquoise water is available in all of those situations. And if I let go of thinking what I think about where I am, I'm actually an infinite, unlimited being of energy in a state of infinite possibilities. And it went from a thought and an idea that I had contemplated for 30 years to being an instantaneous reality. And a bird whistled right behind me. And I catapulted instantly into, I was no longer a body. I was energy in a state of infinite possibilities. I completely woke up. I went from 46 years of mental, emotional, physical hell into living bliss. And I sat there for a few minutes crying, just, oh my God, I am in infinite possibilities. And I heard nearly an audible voice that was kind of the punchline of that experience. It said, when you let go of all of your resistance to what is, only then can you catapult into any experience that you want. As long as you have any trace of resistance whatsoever to what is, you're going to be fighting it, and it's going to be perpetuated. And so something told me to go check my computer. I walked up to my computer. There was an email from somebody who I knew about his business. I was really impressed with it. And he had seen a video I made, and he said, hey, can you call me right now? I called him. And he said, listen, I need somebody to take over my company. And I can see from your testimonial video that you understand my company better than anybody on my team. I know this is crazy, but could you take over today immediately?
What?
I said, okay, well, this is the most exciting business idea I had ever seen. And you want me to take over? I would be ecstatic to take over. He said, well, there's one catch, man. I've got to be on a cruise in 8 days in the Bahamas. And I see already that you're able to explain my concept better than I've been able to. I need someone to represent my company. Could you go on that cruise? And I said, good. I could probably suffer through that, man. And so now here's what's really crazy. I could not make this up. 8 days later, I stepped on a ship named the Miracle.
Wow.
Okay. It's a Carnival cruise ship named the Miracle. And that literally, so 70 days later, about 67 days later, I was living the dream in Hawaii. And I went from 46 years of hell, my life an utter train wreck in every way, to a few seconds later, I was living in heaven on earth. 8 days later, I was in the Bahamas on a cruise ship headed for the Bahamas. And less than 70 days later, living the dream in Hawaii. And that led to what I do. A few months later, I was inspired to start a company doing that gift that I've had since I was 3 years old of helping people to wake up and step into their infinite being. And so since then, since that moment in 2011, I've been able to touch and meaningfully contribute to the lives of over 100,000 people in 84 countries using what I learned largely as a direct result of the abuse that I went through. And I have a conceptualization. I have an understanding of trauma. I have an understanding of what shocks SHOCK. What kind of shocks happen in our childhood that we don't have to be beaten? We can be told no. And for a 1 or 2 or 3-year-old, being told no can be a devastating, traumatic experience. Watching a loved one leave their body and see how everybody responds who believes in death. Having our family have to move can be devastating. And these seemingly insignificant things are all traumatic. And so because of the extreme 17 years of living in trauma, I have a really unique, far-reaching understanding of trauma and a really unique ability to help people to dissolve theirs. So that's why that takes us all the way around the circle to why I'm so grateful I went through that.
Wow, that's quite the amazing story from homelessness to what a trip. And you know what's so beautiful about it, Brian, is what it demonstrates is once you get into that state of non-resistance, surrender, and gratitude, that like formula, it's like there's a myriad, infinite ways the universe can knock on your door and literally pick you up and drop you in where there's a lot more of that aqua blue marine water all around. You know what I mean? It's just like there's unlimited ways it can do it. And when someone realizes that, we spend so much time in our minds, our little minds, thinking, well, gosh, I'm so far away from this, that, or the other, and I can't get there, and why not? And you don't. The magic, the miracle is real when you can get into that state. And it's sort of a recurring story I've seen too, having the pleasure of talk to so many amazing people who have been on their own similar version of this hero's journey, where it's like once they're fully broken, it's like then they're broken open. And it's such a powerful thing for those who are out there in the middle of it, haven't gotten to that sandy beach yet to realize and to ground into their understanding. Like there's many infinite ways that you can end up on that miracle cruise ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm glad you underlined that. And I like to state the obvious. Like if I could go from that hell to this heaven on earth, it doesn't matter what you're going through, where you're at, how long you've been there. It means nothing. You can have the exact same experience for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as doing this work that you do, from since you're 3 years old, where you can kind of see into people and what their challenges are and what's holding them back, I'd love to hear more about that. Is that what you're referring to as spell breaking?
Yeah, that's an aspect of it. So, going backwards just a bit, when I was at my lowest points in my own life, my daily activity, it didn't matter where I went and what I was doing. Someone would show up in front of me. We would start a conversation, whether it was someone I already knew or someone I was just meeting. And they would say, I got the weirdest feeling like that I can just tell you my story, and like I can trust you. And people would tell me, and I have had, since I was 3, this uncanny knack for being able to see their infinite being despite their story and despite their illusions and the BS that they believe about themselves, and to be able to reflect that to them. And that is the essence. I got to say, like under it all, the essence is I unconditionally love everyone and everything all the time. And strangely, I did that even when my own life was a total train wreck. That never left me. And I still had a lot of reactivity. I had my own programming I was dealing with, and yet I had unconditional love for the person in front of me. So that was really the magic. And then as my life went on, up till that miracle moment, as my life got more and more of a disaster, more and more of a train wreck, my ability to help people was always accelerating. Every time I helped someone, I learned new things about how to do it more efficiently, more quickly. I was calling it unsticking, like I was helping people to get unstuck. And then when I had that breakthrough, it was January 3rd, 2011, when I had that awakening experience. And several months later, probably in July, I got the inspiration. It is time for me to do and live the work that I'm here to do, which is the gift that I've always been doing that I thought was a curse. And that involved, I made an invitation to a whole bunch of people on Facebook. Hey, listen, I want to get a whole bunch of testimonials and prove this crazy miraculous ability that I have. I'd like to invite 20 people who want to do free sessions with me. And the only catch is I'm not going to charge anything, but if I help you have a breakthrough, you give me a testimonial. So a week later, I had 20 testimonials. I had started a business. I created a mentoring program out of just nothing. I got this inspiration. 600 people joined it, much to my amazement. And
wow.
This was, roughly 8 years ago. And that unsticking evolved and evolved with every time I've done a one-on-one session with a person or with a group. It has evolved into what I now call spell breaking. And that, at the essence of it, is this. You are an infinite, unlimited being of energy. Now, it's a nice thing, and not. I'm talking to you, anyone listening, you, the listener. You're an infinite, unlimited being of energy. The odds that you're listening to Positive Head, you probably mentally get that. You may even have had moments where you have experienced it to some extent or other. However, I say this with honor of you, with total respect, and with no sense of cockiness, although sometimes people perceive, wait, Brian, that's a little cocky to say. I'm just saying that having it in your mind is absolutely, utterly worthless. I had it in my mind for 30 years, and it made me, I suffered worse every day because of it, because I knew that I knew it, and I knew I wasn't able to walk it. And no one out there was showing me how to walk it. People were showing me how to understand it more and more and more, but nobody was showing me how to walk it. And I will tell you that when you shift from having the idea of infinite possibilities, when you shift from the idea that we're one, when you shift into the ever-present experience of infinite, unlimited energy in a state of eternal grace, in a state of total innocence and infinite possibilities with no strikes against you because you're in the eternal now, always expanding, oh, life is different. And so with spell breaking, I am helping people to go from the idea of it into the ever-present experience of it.
Wow. I love that whole conceptually. That is brilliant and beautiful. And I'd love to go further down that trail to see how exactly you integrate that with people, to hear how you integrate that with people.
Beautiful, man. It's my favorite topic. And if you want, I can just rant on, or if you want to ask maybe from angles, your audience well. And if you want to ask it from angles that will be the most serving to them, I'm happy to go whichever way works.
Yeah. All right. Well, now seems like a good moment to take a quick minute to tell those of you who aren't familiar a bit about our sponsor, Gaia. I've been a big fan of Gaia for many years now, which is why they're the only content provider I've ever reached out to in regards to potentially supporting this podcast. So needless to say, I'm very excited they're now supporting the show. Gaia truly is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web. They have an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. Just to give you an example, on the show Missing Links, the incredible researcher Greg Braden explores all the biggest questions concerning who we are, where we come from, where we're going, by connecting the missing links between science and spirituality to complete our understanding of humanity's history and to better understand the interconnectedness of all things. Awesome, right? And that's just one example. As you guys constantly hear me say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to go deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. One thing that bubbles up, and it's something that I talk about a lot. And, it's one of those things where I know that people really get this idea of, or resonate with the idea of being one, being one with all things, one with the source consciousness that creates and animates all things, as I like to put it. And that is the ultimate nature of reality. And as a result of that truth, we create our reality, and people really seem to love that idea until there's something that's really sticky, and so one of the things that I've said before that I think is probably has the hardest for people to digest and to really grab onto is this idea that, as I put it, there's never been a victim in all of eternity.
Right.
And that one is like, oh, hold on now. I love this idea until you start talking about this person wasn't a victim who, this child who was innocent and this happened, or, whatever it is. And I think that is, you see people who really gravitate towards this stuff, and it's a part of the journey, right? As we sort of go down this path together, you have moments where you're really seeing things clearly from the top of the vista overlooking the valley. And then you have times when you're in the valley and you're like, oh, I kind of forgot or whatever. And it seems like people really slip when it comes to that. It's like you take something that's really, hits people's hot button, whether it's race or whether it's, something that happened, to someone who was perceived innocent, like a child or whatever. And I think that's a really tough spell for people to break, like falling into, this idea of victimhood.
Yeah, man, you're so right. You're right on the hot spot there. And when you were saying, as you paused from, you're looking for that word, and I say emotionally charged.
That's a good one.
Emotionally charged topics. Okay, so here's the scoop on that from my perspective, and I'm just gonna, again, I don't want to. I'm not apologetic about it. I do like to be clear. I had a client of mine about 3 years ago that said one of the best summaries of me, because I mean, man, even in the world of the anomalies, I'm a really strange anomaly, and I don't fit in any box. And she said, in trying to describe me, she said, Brian, like I've listened to the best teachers. I've been to all of Tony Robbins seminars, and I've spent the multi-day seminars with Deepak, and I listened constantly to Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, these incredible geniuses. And oh my God, Eckhart Tolle's teachings on presence and all that. She said, but I gotta say, every one of them helps me to understand it better, but you're the only person that ever helped me experience it. And that statement, really, when I heard it, I did some reflection on, well, what is it? And I've asked a lot of my clients, people that have spent six figures and decades working on themselves, they come to me and they break completely free very rapidly. And I ask them, what is it? What is it? So that I can explain it better to people. And here's what that issue you're speaking of, here it comes from what I call the level 5 perspective. And that's where I always talk from, the level 5 perspective. There are approaches to self-help, like, okay, inner child work. And then there's what's called shadow work. And there's all kind of energy work. And there's soul retrieval and destiny retrieval and pretty much you name it. There's all these different approaches that all have validity and they all have value and they all can create benefit for us. One of those things, when you talk about the type of issue you're speaking of, which is what about a child being raped, for 5 years by their family members when they're on the way growing up? How do you reconcile that? Okay. So there are different approaches to that. And one of those approaches is soul contracts. Well, I find in my own experience working with now thousands and thousands of people who have spent decades with every one of these approaches, what I find is that there's something missing, or there is something that they're not quite tapping fully into that can make the difference. And here's what that is. Infinite, unlimited being is not definable. It's infinite, so it's not definable. And eternal means can't die and can't be harmed. So infinite, eternal, unlimited being projects like a movie projector out of the eternal, unchanging state into this illusion of time and space in order to have experience. And that is so, that's like the sum point of everything that I teach and everything that I do. So I'm going to say it again because there's a whole lot of meat and chewiness inside of a few words there. Infinite, unlimited being is projecting out of the eternal state into this illusion of time and space, creating the illusion of time and space in order to appear separate and have experience. So let's go back. Every religion, every spiritual tradition has a creation myth. And I propose to you listening, hearing my voice right now, that issue of child rape or abuse or any racism, anything that you still have a difficulty with, if you receive what I'm about to transmit, you will eliminate, at least for the moment, you're going to eliminate that as a incomprehension for yourself. So here it is. Infinite, unlimited being dwelling in eternity has no ability of motion or change. There is no space, so there's no possibility for movement. In other words, you can't go nowhere. At the eternal level, there's no change. You can't do nothing because there ain't no things. So at that eternal level, there is only, all these words, Jehovah, Yahweh, Brahman, Atman, doesn't really matter. It's infinite, unlimited being sitting in eternal bliss, forever and ever unchanging. And you say, I think I want to have an experience. So you project out of eternity into this illusion of time and space, this seeming separate life that you call me. And here you are now having that experience. Now, when you get ready to project out of eternity into time and space to have this experience, you know beyond the shadow of a doubt you cannot be killed. You cannot be harmed. So you set it up to really be convincing with sharks that can bite you in half and buses that can run you over and people of other races that can shoot you or bomb you or cut you in half. You set up IRSs and tax agencies and kings and queens to be tyrants over you. You set up medical systems and governmental systems and educational systems and military systems to seem to pre-exist you and seem to have power over you so that you can have a convincing experience of limitation. What else are you going to do? Sit in bliss for eternity? That's what you've been doing. So knowing that and choosing to project into time and space, you set up everything from wasps and bees and people who rape and murderers and tax men and tax women, everything you could possibly police brutality, you name it. You created it so you could experience convincing limitation. And for you to think that those things are bad and wrong and that they should be changed or corrected or eliminated puts you in opposition to your very own creation, and you are going to suffer until you release it. Now, I'm going to pause, Brandon, because there's my take on the whole thing. And then if we want to talk about the solution, but you may have some reflections on that.
Well, yeah, and that was beautifully explained and illustrated. And what I would say is, there are, to add to it, there are relative truths. And so you're talking from the highest vantage point or the most expanded vantage point. And then you get into, okay, should we do anything to correct that if it's happening? Well, I would add on to that the source, this perfect eternal state that we sprung from, we wanted to create these issues to have the experience of then overcoming them, and correcting something and finding our way back to the bliss that we departed from by going through hell, right? And so from certain, depending on what it's like, these relative truths, it really depends almost on what vantage point you're speaking from, because from that highest vantage point, most expanded vantage point, which I absolutely love, I couldn't agree with you more. And then you have like, okay, well, if I see someone right there being harmed in front of me, should I do something, right? Well, based off of my current trajectory and the aim of what I want to experience, probably so, right? And so that's just my 2 cents to add into that. But that was very eloquently said, and even more importantly, powerfully felt.
Beautiful, man. Thank you. I'm hugely grateful, and I knew magic was going to happen. And let's see how far we can go with the awesome here. So,
I love it.
I like what you just said about the what there's different levels of truth. Well, what I propose to the people, so not everybody wants to wake up, and I personally took 46 years to discover, through immense pain, helping people who didn't want my damn help.
Right.
I learned not to help until someone asks.
Right.
So when I created the mission for my company 8 years ago, it was to help 300 million people who want it.
Love
to
it.
completely awaken to their infinite, unlimited being, so that they can consciously create the body, health, business, wealth, relationships, life, and world of their dreams. And that key phrase, those who want it. Okay. So
Right.
when somebody wants it, and this is where we just must choose honesty eventually. If you want to live in the world of love and joy and peace that you are talking about, my friends out there, who are trying to change things through political action, or trying to solve problems, you're trying to fix what's wrong, you're trying to solve the error. None of those I propose with love and honor to you. None of them are going to work ever. They literally cannot work, because the perspective, yes, that ultimate perspective that you speak of, Brandon, of this is the highest awareness available to us. Well, we got to realize that the awareness point that we choose to address these issues with are going to dictate what we get. And so if someone comes at this from, those things are wrong and they must be righted, you are in opposition to what you are unknowingly creating. And that is the catch. When you look out at your universe, all right, so one of my phrases, one of the things that I share with students, clients, audience, whatever you want to call it, is total personal freedom equals total personal responsibility, and total personal responsibility equals total personal freedom. Now, one of the things along the way, the trauma of responsibility, most of us learn responsibility by having an authority figure point down their bony finger at our faces in a condescending or threatening way. You're responsible. Well, responsibility means you have the ability to respond. If we release all ideas of punishment, retribution, shame, and blame, and just understand that responsibility means I have the ability to respond, then when we look at these things in life and we say, well, I see it, I accept the possibility that if I'm going to walk around with my beads on, saying namaste, brother and sister, we're all one, and I create my reality, and everything is energy, well, then I gotta realize that I am creating everything. And if I am creating everything, then my finding fault with some of the things going on in the world is not only hypocrisy, it's actually detrimental to creating what I want. Now, that's something I probably could stop and say it 8 times. I just invite the listener to hit rewind and listen to that again. So here I am now. I'm looking out at the world, and I see what I call racism, and I see what I call degradation of the environment, and I see what I call global warming, and I see what I call rape. All these bad things. Wait a minute. If I'm the creator of my universe, then I'm actually only seeing what I created. And if I treat those as wrongs to be righted, or brokenness to be fixed, or sickness to be healed, I'm missing the point. Those are things that I created to be first accepted. And just like me at the pool, homeless,
surrender,
hopeless, suicidal, with all my bridges burned. I'd been physically abused for 17 years. I could have been pissed off at God and pissed off at the universe and said, screw this. I'm going to gather a group on Facebook that's against blah, 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 blah. No, I surrendered to the fact that this is my universe that I have created. And when I surrendered, this is the universe that I've created. What would happen right now to you, my beautiful, infinite, unlimited friend listening right now, who is disguised as a finite being? And you look at the racism, and you look at the sexism, and you look at all the things that you could list as wrong, and you want to correct them. And you're going out with your energy unconsciously to battle them and correct them, not remembering that you created them so that you could experience limitation. Do you really think that's going to end well? No chance.
Right.
No chance. So Einstein said, what we resist persists. And let's be honest, how much have we been resisting? So if we drop all of that, we understand that everything is perfect exactly the way it is, including the things we don't like. The minute we accept them, we can change them. The minute we accept them, we can change them. And until we accept them, we cannot change them.
Yeah.
And the minute you accept them, I've had people, Brandon, that have, so I've spoken in many countries around the world. I've done live events all over the place. I have people come out to Hawaii to work with me. I do webinars and Facebook Lives. I'm working with, hundreds of thousands of people now. And I watched someone who was raped. I watched them cross the line to where they quit thinking it was a wrong and a bad. They quit blaming the person they did it. And they say, oh my God, this person is my creation. Technically, they're a cell in my body that I created to show up at a specific time to do this seeming violation to me so that I could have this awakening experience and expand in my forgiveness and awareness now. When I watch them go into gratitude for the event, the miracles that begin to happen in their lives are indescribable.
Are the proof. That's the proof, right? If you're questioning, I don't know, that's what's beautiful about it. Don't just don't believe me, check it out and see. And that's what's so powerful about that.
Yep. That's the magic, man.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is, and I feel like this is, you've done such an amazing job of going down this very tricky rabbit hole. And I applaud you because it's a sticky one for a lot of people. And, it's bubbled up a lot lately, even, in the last couple of days, talking about this very thing. And someone had posted something in our Facebook group about law of attraction and how, law of attraction, they never talk about, all the repressed people. Most of the people who are proponents of law of attraction aren't talking about, that's great that you can focus on, whatever it is you want to create in your life, and someone else is struggling to survive or being oppressed or what have you. And so, and you can see it is super emotionally charged for that person. And so it's just helping to navigate that perspective is I feel like as we can get more people to really ground in to understand that it's always happening for you, not to you and through you. And really get that on all levels. It's the game. It is the game changer.
It is the game changer. And, I have a sense, I don't know how much longer we're going to go. And I'm here for the duration. I'm enjoying it. And I want to say, Brandon, you and I are dwelling in infinite possibilities here. And you have, there's a format to your show, and you also allow a lot of flexibility. And I am having this sense right now of just the infinite possibilities. Who knows where this can go, and who knows how many people can be touched by this. And I'm going to say, you have noted a couple of times you feel like I'm handling that potentially sticky thing gracefully. I will tell you that just for me, for the last 7 years, almost 8 years, all stickiness has disappeared. Now, occasionally when I talk about this, people who are not ready to hear it, who do not want to hear it, they hear it. And I get to see how those people respond to this. And I no longer allow that to affect me shining my light and speaking my truth. I'm speaking this for the person who wants to hear it. I welcome challenges. I welcome arguments. I welcome disagreement. I welcome mutually honoring, challenging at all times. And one of the things that I have kind of in the last few years is, being that I work sometimes with groups of thousands of people, and I'm a member of many multi-thousand or even 100,000 people on Facebook and different social media settings. And this topic of the law of attraction comes up a lot. Yep. And I used to tone it down a little bit. I don't anymore. I now unabashedly state that for people who want to fully wake up, who fully want to step into their freedom, it might be time for us to realize that the law of attraction is just another religion that when we traded in our religion and we said, oh, no, I'm not religious anymore. I have become spiritual. Ooh, look, here's this law of attraction thing. I joke about eventually writing a book called How to Beat Yourself Up with the Law of Attraction. Because it is literally just another way of explaining the universe that we then try to adhere to and try to get right. I hear people, oh, how did I attract this? And now, whether you want to go further down that rabbit hole, I'd love to. Well, this is your show and your audience, and I welcome touching on this. I would just say in a nutshell, and then I'll let you guide with questions, whatever, or statements, whatever.
No, give us your download on it. I'd love to hear it.
Well, the bottom line is that there is no physical universe here. This is a projection that not we, that you, hearing my voice, created. The entire universe is a projection that you have created. That, and I'm going to give like the kind of the deepest download that I share. The people that invest, so I want to say this. Let me get this out of the way real quick. I give away more than some people sell. My book is free. I have tons of videos for free. I probably have 3,000 hours of timeless video on YouTube, all free. And then for people that want to get closer to me and get more access and more intimate time with me, I have offerings of products and group things and then one-on-one work that I do. At any case, the people that invest the most heavily with me and sit down for 4 days one-on-one, one of the things I focus on with them, here's the essence of it. When you decided to project out of eternity, being an infinite, unlimited being, when you decided to project out of eternity into time and space, you had to forget your infinite power, or there wouldn't be. There's a joke in South Carolina. I used to live in South Carolina. I was a professional musician for years, played a lot of redneck bars, okay? And the joke was you got to leave your gun at the door. Because, man, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when somebody looks at somebody's girlfriend the wrong way and one gun comes out, everybody's dying. Nobody's going to leave the bar, and that's bad for bar business. So you got to leave your gun at the door, right? Well, as an infinite, unlimited being, when you project out of eternity into this illusion of time and space, you got to leave your infinite power at the door. Well, where did you hide it? In everything you hate and fear. Obviously, the places you wouldn't look. So here you are now, looking out at this seeming universe that you think you're looking out at. But there is no out there. As quantum physics has shown us, there's no out there. Yep. We wake up and go beyond the idea of that, and we look at the implications of that. Here's what that necessarily tells us. What we call the universe is the projection and reflection of everything we think and believe that we know, the vast majority of which is hidden from us by us in our so-called unconscious, much of that tangled up in frozen emotions and trauma. So we're here doing battle with all of that. We're looking out at this nightmare, this wrongness, this badness that's got to be corrected and everything. And we try to explain it. We try to understand it. and there's been religions that have been running the show for thousands of years. There's Newton's paradigm of the clockwork universe. We're a separate chunk of meat in this giant universe of fate and forces older than us and bigger than us that are going to kick our asses and grind us up into ribbons, and then we'll die. And we've been living under that for hundreds of years. And yet here Einstein and Tesla have wakened up and told us what the quantum physicists are telling us, which all the great spiritual seers and knowers of all time have told us. There is no physical universe here. We're infinite energy projecting this illusion of a universe. Well, we forget to take responsibility. We try to explain it. We have all these religions. We finally say, I've had it with religion. I'm going to become spiritual. Then we watch The Secret. We hear all these people spouting out stuff about the law of attraction. Again, Brandon and listener, I mean no disrespect of any kind to anyone who uses the law of attraction as their way of explaining the universe. I'm just speaking my soul to help you, because that's what I was invited to do on this podcast. So you choose for yourself. But if there is no universe, if there's no physical universe out there, then you can't attract anything to yourself. You can't repel anything. You can only see the reflection emerging that reflects to you what you think and believe that you know. So when people say, Brian, I just don't understand why I attracted that, I say, what if you didn't? But wait. That's right. Listen, if you have inside of you, you created your universe to come in and have I'll just use my life. You came in to have an abusive, and this will also let anyone hearing know that I'm living what I say, if that helps. All right. So I'm born to this furious dad and this low self-esteem mom. My mom had no love to give. She totally did her best every minute of every day. My dad did the best he could every minute of every day, trying to protect me from the hell that he was certain based on the hell he went through. Neither of them were wrong or bad. They were doing the best they could with what they had experienced. And I got the shit beat out of me mentally, emotionally, and physically every day for 17 years with no love to cushion it. And I am grateful for the entire experience. I didn't attract it. I created it. I reflected it into what I thought was a universe outside of myself. And I finally woke up to realize that what I call the universe is my body. And I am a cell in what I have called my body is a cell in the body of this universe. There's nothing wrong out there. There's no disease out there. There's no badness out there. There's no Fed that's destroying me. There's no IRS that's being unfair. There's no terrible people doing vaccinations and none of that's happening. It's just how I perceive it. And when I realize, oh, wait, I created that. I'm not attracting it. No. It's not a wrongness to fix. I created that. Now, from presence, how would I prefer for it to be? From presence, how would I prefer for it to be? Ooh, all of a sudden I feel anger, or I feel sadness, or I feel fear. And if I don't let those feelings trigger me into anti this or anti that, or passing a law, or wrestling, joining a Facebook group that's against this or that, if instead I focus on what I want to experience and I move through the emotions that arise along the way, that's where I hid my power. And now I am changing those things at the level where I created them. Thinking that I am attracting puts me once again in another frame of mind where I'm trying to figure, how did I get it wrong? How did I do it wrong? And how can I fix it? It's so wrong. It's so exhausting and it's so unnecessary. And I will wrap up that whole rant by saying, in my eyes, the law of attraction is another religion we created to beat ourselves up with and to prevent ourselves from seeing how we created all, not created, how we created all and how to change it.
Yeah, what comes up for me when you say that, and very beautifully explained, it's this idea that it's all already there, and there is nothing outside of you. It is, the way I view it is, I'm looking at a picture, actually some visionary art right now where the guy is sitting there, meditating under a tree. That's how I envision like our God, higher self, whatever you want to call it, is like literally, in a meditative state, imagining this whole thing, and you are in your own private universe projected into it. And what's happening in Afghanistan is what I have given energy to and have believed to be so, and so it is. And it's like it's all your own private play that's going on. And I had a guest a while back, Derek Rydall, and I really like the way he put it. He talked about it not being the law of attraction, just like you're saying. He's like, it's the law of emergence. The way he put it, if you create the right circumstances, the acorn with enough water and sunlight turns into the oak tree. But it's all already in there. So there's nothing new when it's all happened. It's like it's just a matter of it allowing things to emerge, watching them emerge, as opposed to even creating them or attracting them.
That's exactly right. And I even take one step further where as I see it, there are no laws. Like if we simplify it down to the root of the root of the root, I am that. I am that. And here I am. And what I perceive to be a universe. Wait a second. Universe. Uni is one. Verse is song. It's just one song. And it's an infinite number of notes playing. This might be a playful, helpful image here. So imagine two liver cells having a conversation, and one liver cell says to the other, "Hey, man, I don't know, but I heard other cells talking about that there's this thing called a liver. What do you think?" And the other liver cell goes, "I know. And I heard other liver cells talking about human." And isn't that ridiculous? And they both are cells in a liver. And here we are theorizing and talking about that universe, which is your body. It's not even our body. The universe is your body. Now, you don't have to accept that. You don't have to agree with it. You can say, "Brian, you're completely crazy." And I say, "Namaste. I honor your view." However, for people who want to be free, not free of problems, just free, when you consider the possibility that the universe is the projection seemingly out there of what you hold in here, of all the things you think and believe that most of which is unconscious, suddenly you can say, "Wait, how is this happening for me? How is this happening for me?" And actually mean it. And you go beyond that theoretical, "Oh yeah, everything's happening for me." "Oh, everything is happening for me. Wait, everything
like
is
really?"
Yeah. And then you can discover how, and suddenly you're accelerating at light speed or beyond into the experience that you truly want to have.
Yeah. All of these, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you get to the root of the root, there's untruth in every statement. The law of attraction, that's a way to try and shine a little bit more light on this path as we uncover more of who and what we are. And it's like, it's just reaching for ways to put our kind of somewhat pathetic words to something that's unfathomable and indescribable. And you talked about there being no laws. What true from the ultimate root of the root, because someone could stand here and talk to me about, the law of physics states this and this. Okay, what about, just reading the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda, and the amulet that appeared, out of, just materialized. So what does your law say about that one? Or, someone doing something where we've heard these stories, or maybe been lucky enough to experience or see them ourselves, where the law all of a sudden is completely broken. We know the famous stories of Jesus walking on water, or water to wine, or whatever. And there's tons of this sort of thing where all of a sudden your law has completely folded, because it's, at the end of the day, the only true law is infinite, possibility, right?
That's right. Okay, so let me, if it's cool, I'm gonna grab that and run with it for a minute, because
Sure.
okay. So when I start a new program with a person or with a group, doesn't matter. Here's where I always start. This is the thing. So to kind of take what you just said and grab a piece of it. If there is no universe here, and there isn't, then why are we all still debating universal laws? Why are we even talking about universal laws, right? So let's take it down to its root. And I will take people through an experience, and I'm going to do like an abbreviated one right here. So if you're not driving, if you will, just close your eyes for a moment and just notice whether you're having experience or not. And just notice, you might feel the seat under your butt, or maybe you're standing up, you feel the floor under your feet. Maybe you notice gravity. You can feel the temperature of the sun on your skin, or an air conditioner blowing on you. You might feel your clothes. So you notice, you hear my voice, you're having experience. Now, what I want to invite you to do is just for a few seconds, when I say 3, 2, 1, 0, on 0, just stop having experience. So get ready, go. 3, 2, 1, 0, go. Oh, you're still having experience. So you're obviously not trying hard enough. Stop having experience now. Stop right now. Stop it. You're still not trying hard enough. You're still hearing. So instantly people realize, wait a minute. Okay, no matter what other theoretical bullshit I have mounted on top of all my ideas about everything, I cannot deny that I am having experience. And ultimately, the only thing that I can prove or verify is that I am having experience, and it is continual. Like, I don't know how to stop the ride. And when people get to that point right there, Brandon, it's like all the theories, all the experts, all the gurus, all the law of attraction, beautiful person hearing my voice, I will ask you to consider you created them too. You created them to tell you, with infinite respect, all the bullshit that you were still ready to believe. And although I'm not telling you that I'm not telling you bullshit, you decide for yourself. But you chose to have this voice, so-called Brian, show up at this precise moment, not 5 minutes before, not 3 days before, not 5 years later. So what if you're actually dictating the experience? Now, wait a minute. Here's what we know for sure. The only things we know for sure, not what they told us in school, for goddess's sake. We don't know anything they told us in school is true. We don't know anything that the doctors or nurses told us is true. We don't know that anything they told us at church is true. We cannot verify one single speck of anything the military told us or anything the news told us. The only thing, if we really want to be honest, raw, brutally honest, is that right now I am having experience. I am, and I am having experience. So, I almost want to underline this and hammer it for a little while. I will just say it one last time. Hear me. If you want to be free, take the extra energy to really hear what I'm saying. Really focus. Contemplate. Can you prove much more than that you are here and you are having experience? All else is theories. Now, you notice that when I told you to stop having experience, you couldn't. So what that means is that experience is continual. And the next thing you'll notice is that there are things that you prefer to experience more of and things you prefer to experience less of. Now, you got a million theories and a million stories and a million frameworks and paradigms about all of it. They're bullshit. Ultimately, you're having experience. You don't know how to stop experience. It's continuing. And some things you prefer to experience and some things you don't. So what if we let that be our guide and our basis, not the theories and all the things we've decided that we believe and that we know? Where would we go next? We wouldn't be talking and arguing about laws and theories, and we would be saying, what do I actually prefer to experience? Because now here's the bottom line of the bottom line of the bottom line. If you're projecting out of eternity into time and space, and you can't prove you're not, and if you're here with ESP, and sometimes you notice intuitions and guidance, so you know you're part of something bigger than the thing you thought you were, and you're here having this experience, and you don't know how to stop the experience, and that's a fact. And you notice for sure there are things you prefer to experience and things you prefer not to experience. Then what if we were to release everything other than, what do I prefer to experience now? And this is kind of the summary of all the summaries of everything that I take, everybody that I ever work with. I take them to the roots of this. You're having experience. Can't deny that. You can theorize forever, but you can't deny that you're having experience. You cannot deny or disprove that that experience is continual. And ultimately, there's things you prefer to experience and things that you don't. And if none of the religious programming is real or provable, and if none of the educational programming is real or provable, if none of the medical programming or military programming, governmental, etc., judicial, if none of that is provable, the only thing provable is I'm here having experience, some of which I want to prefer and some of which I don't want more of, and I don't know how to stop it. Then what if you would do the only thing that made any sense whatsoever, which is to begin to focus on what you do prefer? What would happen? You would begin for the first time in your life to aim your infinite, unlimited being into what you prefer to experience rather than theorizing or fighting against what you don't like.
Focus.
Focus on what you prefer to experience.
Love that. Super powerful.
And simple. And simple.
Just like focus, we all know it's like you put your focus without a lot of distractions on one thing. Like it's the issue that arises is we're constantly taking our foot off the gas, stopping, starting. Oh, there's a tree over there. I'm looking at that. Stop the gas. Oh, hold on. There's that. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to give it a lot of attention. I'm going to jump up and down about it. Oh, it's like looking every which way, but in the direction that you want to go.
That's right. And you know what? As you said that, Brandon, I'm going to hold the mirror aimed in a slightly different direction. As compared to constantly taking the foot off the gas, it's a matter of constantly allowing the gas, from where I sit, the gas is always pressed fully. It's a matter of not having your hand on the steering wheel because you don't know where it is or what it does. So it's jerking with every bump. I'm going here. I'm going here. No,
right.
we end up with the same outcome. Right. It's just two different ways of saying the same thing. And what if we would focus on what if we realized that it was okay to focus on what we want to experience? Now that begs maybe the most important question for many of us, which is why don't we constantly focus our energy on what we prefer? And it's because we created parents, religions, and seemingly when we projected out of eternity into time and space to have experience, we created all of these seemingly pre-existing entities that know better. And they told us, what are you, selfish little jerk? What the hell are you doing going for what you want? You should be going for what we want you to want. Let us be selfish. Don't you be selfish. And we bought it not knowing that we set them up to do it. So some people, when they get to this point, they say, yeah, but Brian, you're telling me to be totally selfish. And I say, you are the self. What else can you possibly be but selfish? It isn't whether you're selfish or not. It's whether you think selfishness is wrong or not. Yeah, but Brian, if I did that, I would only do what I want. The funny thing is, if you were to focus on what you really want, it would be love and kindness and abundance for all.
Yep. It's the best. It's a good kind of selfish because it ultimately is going to the fountain of abundance and joy and wellness and health and all those things will just overflow from you ultimately.
Exactly. If we would let go of everything we think and believe that we know, we would find out what we are. And what we are is actually abundance. It's not an idea. It's not, well, I would like more abundance. No, you are abundance. You're resisting it with everything that you think and do. And you can stop right now by focusing on absolute selfishness. And the funny thing is, the minute somebody focuses on total pure selfishness, they become absolutely selfless.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that incredibly beautiful?
Oh my.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing. And this has been absolutely amazing. I know that the listeners are going to want to know where to connect. I know you also said, you got the free book and everything like that you're willing to share with them. So maybe now would be a great time to give that give them that info.
Beautiful. I am grateful to do it. Well, I will say this. Let me sell, because everybody says you're not supposed to sell. I can sell my book since it's free and nobody will be offended.
I love it. That's so good.
Here's what I did. 30 plus years of self-help. And when traditional self-help, goal setting and supposedly practical stuff, when none of that worked for me, I got into the energy stuff and I dove deeper and deeper into the woo-woo for a 30 plus year time period to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars that I invested. My life was so miserable. And along that way, I was looking for the book that would deliver everything, not transformation, but liberation. I was looking for the book that would not help me think about it, but that would help me to experience. Not another book that was full of ideas and information and fascination, but the book that would give me the tools to actually wake up and dissolve my problems. And I was on a multi-decade journey and I didn't find it. And so after I had my awakening experience, started helping people around the world, a couple of years later, I got this inspiration. What if I wrote the book that I would have bled for, the book that I was seeking? So I wrote it, and I called the book with a very humorous take. I entitled the book, Break Your Self-Help Addiction. And that is about the fact that how many people call themselves self-help junkies. And why would junkie is a drug term. It's because self-help is a lot like pharmaceutical work. We diagnose, we prognose, and we prescribe without addressing the deepest root issues. And so Break Your Self-Help Addiction is the book that I was looking for, that I wrote. And as a totally unknown author, it went #1 international bestseller in multiple categories in like 12 hours. And I'm so happy about it. I've got like 300 roughly 5-star reviews on Amazon. So I know people are loving it. I get weekly messages from people saying, oh my God, I was reading your book and my cancer left. I wrote the book, and at the end of every chapter, I created a video where I do either spell breaking or I walk people through on video the practices that I'm guiding my clients to do. And so it's a $2,000 or $3,000 personal development awakening course that I give away for free on my website. Now, for those of you who really, really, really want either the Kindle version or a physical copy in your hands, you can go to Amazon and search for Break Your Self-Help Addiction. However, what we set up, I talked with Brandon about this. We wanted everybody to get this free that wants it. Okay. And I want you guys to be able to take advantage of this. So you can go to breakyourselfhelpaddiction.com/PH. And I know, Brandon, we can put that link anywhere that this podcast goes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you just click on it, breakyourselfhelpaddiction.com/PH for Positive Head. And you will get the book in a digital download. And at the end of every chapter, there's the links to those videos. And if you dive in and really follow along, don't be surprised if you find yourself having ahas, epiphanies, breakthroughs, and potentially, like so many have had, actual miracles just from going through the book and the videos. And if you want to go further, find me on Facebook, find me on YouTube. It's Brian with an I, Brian D. And everything I do, I put that to differentiate. Brian D. Ridgway with no E, Ridgway. And I look totally forward to talking to you. I look forward to hearing about your breakthroughs, your insights, your epiphanies, your miracles, and expanding this conversation globally, helping those 300 million people that my mission I was given to help 300 million people not solve a problem, but actually wake up from the illusion of problems.
I love that. That is such a wonderful way to wrap this up. And, you've definitely put an exclamation on this, thought that I've had and said many times before. When you fully understand the situation in which you find yourself, the nature of the situation in which you find yourself, a thank you is always in order.
Amen.
And, and for that, thank you, Brian, for taking the time to come and share. I do have one last question to leave you with. It's my predictable outro question, and it goes a little something like this. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Brian Ridgway?
The meaning of life is to have experience. And for those of us who want to wake up to the fact that the purpose of life is to have experience.
Well said. You, my friend, are an inspiration. Thank you so much for connecting and sharing once again. I look forward to, crossing paths in 3D. I'm sure it will happen sooner than later. And, until then, journey well.
Thank you, Brandon. This has been awesome, buddy.
Likewise. Well, everyone, that concludes this week's interview episode. If you have enjoyed this positive download from our hearts and minds to yours, please take a minute, give us a rating or review on iTunes, since iTunes is the holy grail of all things podcasting. Your good reviews help us to reach more listeners. Also, we would be extremely appreciative if you would tell your friends and family about the show. Our sincere intent with the Positive Head podcast is to spread positivity to the world, because we're selfish, quite honestly. I say that jokingly, but really only halfway joking. I'm referring to the good kind of selfish based on the knowing that we all get what we give in this life, because when we give, we're actually always giving to extensions of self, since we're all really one in the same consciousness, just in different bodies. So if you want to be a good selfish along with us by helping to spread the positivity, by all means, please proceed to shout about the Positive Head podcast from your rooftop. Otherwise, as you continue on your fabulous journey in this 3D reality, be sure to remember this. As long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Journey well, everyone, and thank you for being.